Hello and welcome again to another Vectric YouTube live event. Welcome everybody, and I hope everybody is healthy and well and keeping very, very safe. As you can see here, there's actually sun. The last time I think we spoke, we hadn't quite done the daylight savings time thing, so right now we have caught up with you. So we're on British summertime time. Anyway, that's what it is. So we're now back to our normal, on the east coast of Canada and the US, it'll be 4 hours, and you can work your way across from there. So we're back on track, and we have sunshine most of the time for these things. So hopefully I won't need to break out my light and or my lamp and give you guys some light a little bit later. So yeah, the spring is here and it's beautiful. I was just on vacation on the east coast of England last week, and it was wonderful. Cold, but it was still wonderful out there. It was beautiful. I'll give you a little bit of update on how the lockdown is going here. So last time we spoke, we were just getting ready on April the 12th to open up our non-essential stores, like shopping centers and so on. So they're all open now. And also we've opened up beer gardens and so on, so you can go and have a beer outside at your local pub if you'd like to, which is pretty nice. I have to say, actually, I'm understating how nice it is. Walking around the town that we live in here, or I live in, you can hear people out in their back gardens laughing and going on, and it's really quite amazing. And I was out last night for a run just at dusk, and people were out enjoying a pint at their local pub and having a great time. So, you know, hearing that is just, it means more than what you can ever imagine, or I'm sure most of you know. It is pretty phenomenal. But the next big event is going to happen on May 17th here in the UK, where we actually, pubs will be able to open, fully open, and so will restaurants and entertainment venues. Also, there'll be some larger outdoor sporting events will be allowed to happen with a limited crowd of people, but still that's all coming. And so all of our hard work that we put in here, all of our lockdown that we've done, staying inside and keeping everybody safe, is really paying off over here, and I'm really quite proud of being part of that. So I guess that's kind of the update from here. But as you can see, we're still working from home. I'm in my conservatory. It's hot in here because of the sun. I got the windows open in the back, but that means that any outside noise is going to creep in. And I heard the neighbors were out earlier, so that might be interesting. The train, you are probably going to hear a train go by, or a helicopter or a plane or something. So that is going to happen. My family has are hiding out somewheres in our very tiny house and trying to be super quiet, and hopefully we can get through this without any problems. But again, if it's a little loud outside, I'll pop the windows closed and we'll be okay. So if you have been here for one of these before, thank you very much for coming back. We love having you. You know how it works. If you're new here, in the chat right now is Becky. She'll be there for the duration of this. If you have any questions about what I talk about or what we talk about, you can ask her or in the chat. And also I hear that our special guest is also in the chat, which I'm really excited about. I wasn't sure if she was going to make it or not, so she's there, so that'll be even better. If you have specific questions about what we're going to talk about, you can direct them to her. So I think that's pretty much all of the housekeeping we need to do. And let's just get right into this. Let's go for it. So this month, I'm really excited to have Karen Hadden here. You might not know her name, you may not even know her face, But if you've been on Facebook and you're part of the CNC community, I'm really sure that you would have heard of the Facebook group that she started called CNC Tips, Tricks, and Project Finishes. It's over 36,000 strong. So that's 36,000 members. Now, I'm going to be showing you a pre-recorded question and answer with Karen in a second. And that was only done 3 weeks ago, maybe. And they were just getting to 35,000 members. And so over that short time, they have grown to over an extra 1,000 plus members, which is pretty crazy. If you've never been there, I suggest after we get done this live presentation, you pop over and check it out if you're a Facebook user. It's a great community of like-minded people, all the way from people that are just looking to buy a CNC, all the way up to pro users. And a lot of the names you'll have seen probably in our Vectric user forum over the years. So there's some really serious skills there, and they're very willing to share, just like they are in the Vectric user forum. So this interview, Karen was super nice to do with me. It's about 20 minutes or so of her and I going back and forth with some questions and answers. So like I said, this is pre-recorded, so I'm going to click play in a minute. I've got my coffee here ready to go, and I'm going to sit back and watch, and then when that's all done, I'm going to come back, and she's created a lovely little project for us to share, and so I'm going to go over that with you, all the files that it takes to make this little project and how it was created. So please stick around for that, okay? So I'll be back in just a little bit with some more live stuff, okay? Oh, and one more thing. We noticed earlier that the volume might be a little bit low on this pre-recorded interview, especially at the first. So if you can't hear, just turn your volume up, but be ready to turn it back down again, just in case it ends up kicking in a little bit later, okay? Anyway, apologize for that. So here we go. So Karen, how you doing? It's great to catch up with you again, by the way. I think the last time we met in person was quite a few years ago now at
the Aspire camp.
Yeah, exactly. Jim McGrew was there, and that was a lot of fun. I got to meet you and your husband and so on. So between here and then, how you been? How are things going for you?
Things are going great.
Good.
Learned a lot, doing a lot more 3D work.
Right.
It's one of those things, once you go to 3D, it's kind of hard to go back to 2D.
Well, that's good to hear. I like that. That's great. That's perfect. That's great. So you're still active in your shop now all the time?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, great. So obviously you wouldn't be here if you weren't a CNCer, but before you got into CNCing, what were you doing? What got you this far into it?
Well, I've always been kind of a crafty person. I mean, as a kid, I would, take my furniture in my room and change the colors on it. And I used to love making things with wood. And so, I don't know, call that a tomboy or not, but I've always enjoyed doing things with my hands.
Right. Well, so did you do woodworking back then? Like, did you actually, or was CNC how you got into woodworking?
CNC is how we got into wood. Well, we started doing it by hand. We decided, well, my husband was kind of unhappy with his job, so he found this video from Eric and Dave Roten on how to, make money doing hand-rounded signs. He's like, do that, because he's an artist, so he's got the steady hands and stuff.
Right.
So we started doing that, and that was interesting. The first time, I got it transferred to wood, and he started routing it. We used one of those palm routers. It was bouncing all over the wood. I'm like, oh my gosh, what did we got ourselves into? Because he'd quit his job by then.
Right.
So yeah, we worked through that, and then we did holiday fair with everything, had to be done very quick, and he was doing this stuff by hand, and it was really tedious. Right. So we made it through that first year, and by that second year, we're like, we got to do something else.
Wow, yeah.
We started looking for a CNC.
Right.
So I mean, we didn't have anything around here, anybody around here that at that time was selling CNCs. So we actually found Rockler had a Stark CNC. So we drove to Atlanta, which is about 2.5 hours from here,
right,
and saw the demo, and we bought it. We're like, yes, this is it. Yeah.
Are you still using that same CNC now, the Shark?
We are.
Oh, really?
2012.
Wow, oh my gosh. So it's really held up. Well, that's really good to hear. Good stuff.
Yeah,
wow.
not bad for a little hobby one.
Right, exactly. Yeah. No, and so you started off doing the hand routering, and then it was obviously the move to the CNC. You must have been Was it easy to do? Was it easy to go from doing the hand stuff to the CNC, or did you find the transition difficult, like with the software and so on, or even with the hardware in the end?
Well, yeah, we had no clue. We got it home and we unboxed it. We're like, what do we do now? You know, it looked good when the guy did it in the demo.
Right. Yeah.
So we found out there was no information. We didn't know what feeds, speeds, what kind of wood, how you clamp. We had clamps. We didn't know how to clamp it down. Besides that, we had no information.
Right.
So, we really struggled. It came with the Vectric software. And at that time, I was scared of it because it was different.
Yeah, right.
I mean, Vectric has some great videos out there, but we were just overwhelmed. So I was at that time I was designing in Paint Shop Pro.
Oh yes.
The only way I would use the Vectric software is I would bring it in and convert to bitmap and cut it from there.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, yeah.
We called some of the manufacturers and said, okay, if I use cedar, because this is probably what we use 99% of the time, what would the feeds and speeds be for that? So
Right.
They helped us get to that part, but there was really nothing out there that helped us get started with the CNC.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So we kind of struggled for about 4 years. So that's
Wow.
when I decided to start a group for people I'm like, we got to have where that these people can go.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Ask people that know what they're doing.
Yeah, I guess I suspect that if you're having the problem, then there must be other people out there that are having exactly the same problem. So that was a smart move on your part for sure. Yeah, and the great thing about the internet, right? It's the perfect.
Oh yeah.
Get people, like-minded people together, and sharing ideas and so on. So that's really neat. So now, so why did you choose Facebook as being your platform for starting this group? Was there any particular reason why you chose that?
Well, I was a member of a couple groups of interest groups. I'm like, I'll try this. So it just happened to be the most convenient one to start with.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Was it hard to get started, or was it pretty easy to get?
It was pretty easy. I mean, right? It's easy to get one started. The hardest thing was thinking of the name.
Right. I bet you. That's right. Yeah. And so your group is actually called Finishing and what is it? I forget the name of it now.
CNC Tips, Tricks, and Project Finishing.
Right. Okay. Great. Well, and that's sort of encompasses everything, doesn't it? So that's really quite great. Huh. That's neat. Now, I've never actually, I don't think I've gone through the process of even signing up for your group lately. Like, I think I signed up a long time ago. Is it hard to get into your group, or what's the process like to sign up for it?
Well, you just, you interest, I think you click on, like you want to be a member, but since the beginning, we've added questions. We've got 3 or 4 questions you have to answer and accept the group rules, or we won't let you in, because we had a lot of spam. The larger, the more spam. I mean, we still get it, but not as bad. And we had people that joined that, they were just trolls, and it took a lot of admin time.
Yeah.
At the beginning, the first several years, I did it by myself.
Right.
And then I had met Michael Mazalik at the Aspire camp, and he was my co-admin for the longest time. Mm-hmm. And the more we grew, we've got a total of 6 of us now.
Oh wow! Right. Okay. Yeah.
We had a great group of admins.
Sure. So do you all sort of take turns, sort of moderating it, or how did you just do it all together at the same time?
At the same time.
Oh really? Okay. Right. Okay. Jeez. Well, that's good
because
to have
they're Yeah, I mean, I'm in South Carolina, and then we've got Michael's in Pennsylvania, I believe. We've got some of the other ones out west.
Right, yeah. So you got everything, all the time zones kind of covered, essentially, or at least in North America. Right, yeah. Yeah, that makes it easier. Wow, good stuff. But I can't imagine, though, trying to corral, your Facebook group now is up to 35,000 members. I think that was the last time
I know, right? I mean, so humbled by that.
Well, it's an amazing accomplishment for sure. But to be able to sort of, like I said, corral all those people and try to keep everything on the straight and narrow must be terribly difficult. So to have that extra help certainly would be a good thing for sure. Now, sorry, go ahead.
The members that have been there for a while, they know that I don't put up with a lot of junk. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, sure.
Because I've had a member contact me saying, listen, if you could ask them to watch their language, because my son loves woodworking and he looks through
Oh yeah.
the videos. So, and of course, the members didn't like that when I asked them to please curb their language.
Mm-hmm.
And, you're a big boy or a big girl. You can,
No, exactly. No, it should be accessible to anybody, I think, is sort of the thing,
right?
Essentially, yeah, for sure, yeah. No, I think that's great. Now, any thoughts on how it grew that big? Was it just word of mouth, or did you do any kind of marketing or anything like that for it, or?
No marketing, so it has to be word of mouth. And Facebook, once you start growing, they start flagging you, from what I'm hearing from some of the others.
Right.
The very beginning, I'm like, okay, I've got my name, I've got a group, ta-da! It was, of course, my first member. You're like,
right.
Okay, now what do I do?
Right.
And I invited a couple people that I'd met, over the years, and it must be Facebook helping out.
Right.
Started out, and one thing I feel very strongly about is pirated files. Mm-hmm. There were people out there selling other people's models, and it's just, to me, that's unacceptable.
Right, yeah.
So I said, well, why don't I take and invite some people in the CNC community? And because I'd met them through other groups, smaller. And, I said, well, invite some of the designers I know that design their own stuff. Mm-hmm. So it started out, and I had one guy, it started off really slow, about 300 members in. He's like, I'm out of here. It's all ads. Okay, bye.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I don't know if he's rejoined since then or not.
Right.
It was, we went through some growing pains, but all of a sudden, it started growing and growing and growing, and people invited friends. And
sure.
So it's, I'm really humbled that it's grown like this. It's just, I started out with something, that I did when I started out.
Sure.
The hardest part is to get somebody to talk about finishing, though. They'll talk CNC all
Hey, I hear you. Yeah,
no, we don't want to talk about finishing. So.
Yeah, no. That's one of the things that it is hard. The finishing is a, I'm finishing challenge that when we do projects for Vectric, some of those things that it's very difficult. And we're lucky we have people like Michael Tyler and so on who will share their finishing techniques, but there aren't many people out there, right, that do actually share that stuff. So it is a bit of a challenge. Now, have you seen the interest, because you've grown to like that massive amount of people, has the interest changed over time? Like when you first started out, was it mostly people doing like what you were doing, routering signs, and now are people doing more, I don't know, modeling maybe, or are they sharing other tips and tricks, different stuff than what you ever expected, or is it just kind of going the way you thought it would?
It's just slowly growing and getting bigger. Everybody, you have people that are well seasoned that have been doing it for years. You've got middle ground people, which I consider myself, and then you always have the newbies. Yeah. Right. So then you have the same questions that that come over and over again. But I had somebody one time. It was just, I had a newbie was asking questions, and this person was really rude to him. And remember, you were like at that point at one time, and said you need to be a little more understanding, because you didn't jump out of the box just knowing everything. You had to ask.
No, sorry, yeah.
So I kind of have to slap hands every once in a while, help people back to their beginnings.
Well, that's part of the job, right? Of moderating that many people, is to kind of keep things in line and so on, and to kind of say, hey, there are some rules here. People need to be respected and so on. So I think that's totally fair. Now, the Facebook, your Facebook group is an amazing resource for all kinds of different users, like you had just said, for different skill levels and so on, and that's pretty phenomenal. And I see, when I look through the list of people there, I see a lot of very familiar names. So it's obvious that people are really adopting what you're doing out there. And it's really great to see. And I have to say that I'm very proud of you being, and doing this for people and users. It's great to have another place to go, which is really great. Now, I'm a little bit Facebook challenged. I made a deal with myself a few years ago that I wouldn't get too heavily invested in Facebook. So if I came to your group, is it easy to find information on different topics? Do you have a way to find stuff that's relevant or easy to search? I don't even know how to put it in words, but.
Do you want to walk through it? Screen?
I'm sorry?
You want to share your screen and I'll walk you through it?
Oh, that's well, I could. If I knew you were going to ask this, I'm supposed to be asking you the questions. This isn't the way this is supposed to work. Well, I suspect it's got to be a search bar or something. I don't know. I don't have a clue.
Yeah, at the very top, there's like a little magnifying glass.
Right.
And
Yes.
search in that group, and you can search for, say, edge lit acrylics, or somebody was talking about sapele wood the other day, and just type it in there and it'll show all the posts.
Right.
Talk about it. Now, what I've tried doing is every once in a while I'll throw a topic out there, say like lake signs.
Mm-hmm.
I'll title the very top of it lake signs, and they'll ask a bunch of questions underneath it that I've heard, asked or seen asked in the group over the years.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to make one resource. So if you do lake signs, ta-da, it's there.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Wonderful. Yeah.
One I did on spoil boards. Just every once in a while, I'll just think of something.
Sure. Yeah.
And let's talk about this, So but there's stuff scattered all through the group, but you'll see all the posts and I do on them.
Well, it's great that you're facilitating conversations like that and getting the conversation going, because I do know that sometimes in those groups, things do get stale, and youth are pitching in a question and asking people to kind of throw in their ideas. I think that's a fantastic way to kind of collate some good information together into one package, which is kind of nice. I like that. Good idea.
You see, there comes, it kind of goes in cycles for people asking questions on things. So that's when I get the idea, well, in this group, I saw people asking about this. So let's talk about it in my group,
Right.
So
I think it's great. Yeah, it's a good idea for sure. So what's the most interesting reaction that you've ever had come from somebody knowing that you are the lady, the fountain of knowledge that started out your Facebook group? Is it any strange reactions or interesting reactions that you have?
No. I just, there are those people that don't believe women should be in woodworkings, and they're surprised. They don't like one telling them what to do, because sometimes I do have to slap hands in the group, and
sure.
And we do get rid of the people in the group that cause problems, because we try to keep it a good group.
Right.
Some people are just rude, and we don't have room for that here to help each other out.
Sure. Yeah. Now, do you see more so people now, because of the world situation, we're all in this pandemic, and a lot of us are stuck at home with time on our hands, looking for ways because we can't leave our house or we can't get out. We're looking for places to go, and the internet, of course, and Facebook groups like you run are a great resource, or a great place to go to get away from what's going on. So I suspect that you've seen, or I guess I'm wondering, not I suspect, I guess I would think I know the answer, but I don't know. Have you seen a huge bump in people joining your community since the pandemic? And if you have, is there more women joining have you seen that kind of happening?
It's been growing steadily, so I don't think the pandemic had anything to do with it.
Okay, right.
CNC is always something you can do at home.
Sure, yeah.
There's a lot of creative people out there, but I am seeing more and more women getting into it, which is great.
Yeah, sure.
And there's some very talented women out there.
And now, have they given you any insight into how they may have actually gotten involved in CNC work?
It's really funny. I asked that question to a couple friends today, kind of have a side group. And I asked them how they got it. And my friend Julie said, my dad gave me a scroll saw. My grandfather was a carpenter, and so is my dad. He wanted to pass on the tradition. I think it's fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
And then Christine said, I got into woodworking to make cupcake stands. Bought a router and was scared of it. So I Googled touchless router, and this CNC machine popped up. I was so like, OMG, I don't even have to touch it. So I bought it, and so it began.
Oh, I love it. That's great. That's great. Well, it's great to see that you're getting, people are sharing their stories like that. I remember years ago when I started going to trade shows for Vectric, and we would see men bringing their wives along to I guess maybe the wife was either there to do one of two things, was to make sure the husband didn't spend too much money, or was there because her active role in the woodworking was either finishing or whatever. But over time, I've seen that it's actually now we have women bringing their husbands along, because either the the wife is looking to start a CNC hobby, or maybe has a CNC and is looking for to upgrade their software. And he's just coming along because he's supportive and very proud. I think that's an amazing thing to see, and what a huge change. It's a slow change, but it's nice to see, that's for sure, that happening. So, and to hear stories about how, other women have gotten involved, this is kind of fun. It's a neat thing to hear, for sure.
I kind of got into it. My husband wanted to do it. And I've always been the crafty kind of, I design all the work.
Right.
And he was the one that would carve it. So then it got to where once we get to CNC, I'm like, this is cool. So I started doing more things, and I started designing more things where I could do it on the CNC. So, right. It's fun. Don't be scared of it.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Now with you're a hard to believe, but you're a grandmother.
Thanks.
And did you find yourself wanting to, and I guess you're quite inspiring, I'm sure, to your youngsters or your grandkids. Do you ever find that you want to bring them into the shop, let them have a go at it themselves, or are they just kind of asking you to make projects for them?
Well, we've got 6 grandchildren. So
wow.
Yeah, the younger ones, and they want Nana to make it for them, but we've got one who's 14 now, and he's gotten where he's always liked doing stuff in the shop.
Right.
The last time he was visiting in the area, he wanted to make a flag, so we were working on a flag. I've got a 12-year-old granddaughter who likes it. So about that age is when they really get into it.
Oh, great. Oh, that's good. Yeah, I would. When I was in Canada, I had a little CNC, and my daughter loved to go down and watch it go and have a go at it. So it's one of those things I love to see youngsters getting into it. And back to your point about your Facebook group and keeping things sort of PG rated, I think that's fantastic, because it is a nice place to go to get information that you can share with your kids. So that's pretty cool, really, for sure. Now, do you have any advice for women considering a woodworking profession and getting started? Anything you might want to share that you've learned?
Personally, I think that in general, women are more crafty, right, and creative. I tell them to go for it. Just try to, think of something and then make it with wood. Don't be scared to get into it. Just release your creative side. I mean,
I love that.
That's what I did, and I love it. And over the past couple of years, I've also got into doing acrylic pouring.
Oh, right, yeah.
And what I want to do is, I've got woodworking is one love, acrylic pouring is another. I'm going to try doing something with both.
Oh, nice.
So I've already, started creating the woodworking projects, and instead of doing the traditional painting, I've done the acrylic pouring on parts of it.
Right.
Kind of go off in that direction. You can, if you have more than one interest, put them together.
Oh, definitely. Oh, yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I've been pleasantly surprised with. We've seen a lot of uptick in this resin inlay process. I didn't even occur to me that was a thing. And until I did the inlay project with Mark Lindsay, and then I noticed that that this resin inlay thing is do you see much chat about that in your Facebook group?
Oh, they use the resin a lot for the lake signs.
Oh, really?
And that does come and go. You'll see a lot of people talking about doing it, and they'll, that's one thing I do need to do a topic on.
Right.
Thanks for reminding me. But there are a lot of people who are starting to get into it, and then the more people you get interested in it, then it grows.
Right. Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
So that's why I said. I mean, a lot of people are just like me. I was scared to do things when I first started out, and now it's like, I'm going to try that. I mean, it took me. Man, I've only been doing 3D for like 3 years.
Right. Yeah.
And I was just scared to take that step. I mean, I had my CNC since 2012. So,
Yeah. I think I remember back when we chatted at the Aspire camp that you were just doing mainly 2D signs, weren't you? And
yeah.
So yeah, you hadn't dabbled in the 3D stuff yet. So hey, you know what? From a 3D guy, I'm really glad that you're trying it out, because it's it's a lot of fun. I like the 3D stuff too. So
well, there's a lot of talented 3D designers out there.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
And growing. Just look for them out there. You can find Design and Make is great. Got some great models. I've used a lot. And, over the years, just like I think, yeah, I think that the modelers just need to let us know that they do legitimate work and they're not selling pirated stuff, and we'll add them to the list. And
That's good. Yeah.
we've got a list under the announcements of people that we personally looked at and said, okay, these people do great work. They've been recommended by members. They all do their own work. They're not
Sure.
resellers. And if you look in the group under announcements, you'll find this list, and we keep
Oh, wow.
thing to it. So, and we've added 2D work. There's a lot of people that'll do 2D, like badges.
Right.
There's a lot of people need somebody as a source.
Right.
There's
Yeah, sure.
doing custom work out there.
Well, what a great resource. I didn't realize you had that resource there. And I know that we don't offer custom 3D modeling. So to know that they can go to your Facebook group where somebody needs a custom model created, and you have the resource there to, or the list of people to look for. I think that's fantastic. Good for you. And if they're reputable people, that's fantastic. Like you said,
Right.
it's nothing worse than seeing your work out there being given away when you've worked really hard to create the stuff. And so to know that you have people on the list that create their own stuff and you've vetted that, I think that's fantastic. It's a good list to have. So I'm going to check it out myself. So this is it's a good question, and I think that it's one that actually Rebecca gave to us. And so I'm going to read it word for word because it's a good one, and I think that yeah, it's good. So you created a CNC tips and tricks Facebook group. Go you, as Rebecca would say. How do you feel now that you have managed to set up the space and have helped so many people come together on their CNC journey?
I'm humbled. I'm just humbled at the amount of people who've helped others. There's some people, if you ask a question, you'll have 25 answers within minutes.
Right.
I'm like, wow. So that whole process is just so humbling, because I started it out and I didn't expect it to grow much. You'd have a few people being able to go to find resources, but now I guess since word's gotten out that, hey, you can go here and you won't get slammed as much, or the moderators, I'm not as scared to ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just really humbling,
Oh, that's good. That's good. Well, you've done a fantastic job. And I know that with the community that I know we have at in our Vectric user forum, people are scared to post things, but they are the most helpful group of people that I know that we interact with on a daily basis. And I can't imagine that the group that you're moderating or that you've set up is any different. People shouldn't be scared to throw out a question and get a good solid answer back. I think that there's people out there that are willing to share that information, and they do it in a really nice way. So I'm glad that you're taking some of that stigma out of it a bit, where people don't need to be worried.
Well, it helps. I've got a great admin team. They're very supportive. They'll jump in. There's some very people themselves.
Yeah.
Michael Mazalik, he's been with me since almost the beginning. He's now doing YouTube videos.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. He does some great stuff. So go check out his channel,
No, for sure. And no, he is. And like, you have a lot of names there on your list, like I had said, that are there, and they are very familiar faces. We've either met them or seen them or whatever they are. And they're super helpful, and knowledge, the fountains, they just have lots of stuff to share and are very willing to share it. So it's great.
Well, it's not just in one topic. We've got somebody who can do cabinets. So if you have a cabinet question, you can throw that out. A 3D question, throw that out. Bits questions, just throw that out. So all these people are in finishing too. All these people are talented in different ways. And it's not just about my CNC machine. It's about everything in the whole process that you could ask questions on.
That's right, exactly. Yeah, and I'm a firm believer in that the CNC is just another tool in your shop. It doesn't need to take over your shop. It's something that you use to do either, if it's a full-fledged CNC project you do, or it's just something that you're using to put an applique on something or add names to something or whatever you need to do. So I think that if you're that kind of a woodworker, then your group might be the great spot, or somebody who maybe has a full-fledged woodworking shop and is looking to buy a CNC to add that tool to their toolbox. And I suspect that your Facebook group is a good place to get some advice on where to go to get, or what the first steps are
and where you should start
Right.
looking. Yeah. Very good. Well, hey, Karen, well, thank you for that. I really appreciate your time. I know it's taken us a little bit of jumping through hoops to get this put together, but
I know, right?
but it really it's been great. I appreciate it, and I'm sure that that our viewers appreciate the time that you've spent. Now, that's great. There we go.
So, how great was that? Huh? That was great. What a lovely lady. And like as Ollie, one of the other members of our marketing team said, I love her accent. It's amazing. But Karen, thank you very much for doing that. And your group that you set up, it's amazing how it's growing now. And like I mentioned earlier, it's up to over 36,000 members. That's pretty incredible. And you know, as you said, that must be very, very amazing feeling to see it grow and have that much knowledge in one place to help out people with all kinds of different problems with their CNC. There goes a train. See, I'm not lying. There are trains around here. Anyway, so Karen, thank you again for that. I really, really appreciate it. I'm sure, like I said at the end of that our viewers right now certainly did appreciate that too. So now, not only did you do that for us, but you also came up with a project for us to share with everybody here, and also any of our Vectric users out there. And so let's get into that. So when I first posed this whole idea to you, or to Karen, she, as if you're here, Karen, still, and me interviewing you, that's crazy. But anyway, when I posed this idea to you, we had some ideas that we kicked around a bit about a project. And you thought that something for Mother's Day seemed like a great idea, and you would run with that. And so you did. And we, well, you came up with something, and it's all based on the stacked text thing. So first of all, if you're not familiar with the stacked text idea, let me show you what I mean. So it's the idea. These are some pictures, by the way. These first two pictures are pictures from the Vectric user forum. The idea is to stack up layers of text on top of each other and use the pocketing tool path in a very efficient way to cut around the top layer and then cut around the bottom layer, but leave behind what's on the top and also the name behind it. So as you can see, that O'Donnell is in the background, and Joshua and Amanda are proud of that. And this user added in some 3D content as well, which I always do love. Now this whole process can be used for a round sign as well. It's not limited to just rectangular signs or whatever. You can make a round sign. And this one here is a lovely hanging sign, painted up very nicely as well, using the same process. Now back at our 2018 user group, Dan Swatton, he did a great presentation on the ins and outs of how to do this with text, and that is available on our Vectric website to watch in full if you want to. So if you need more information on that than what I'm going to provide here, I would highly suggest that you go to the website and watch that video. And also, just not this Christmas, but the Christmas before that, Becky did a project for our 12 projects of Christmas, and it was a Merry Christmas sign. And as you can see, she put Merry on the top and Christmas in the background, and also she had some vector-based holly leaves on each end, all done with the stacked text thing. So Karen felt that this would be a great place to start, and also she wanted to include into it her granddaughter or one of her grandkids into part of making this, or one of the elements of this. And so we set her loose, and off she came back with this great idea. So sorry, I'm really teeny weeny in the middle here, but there's lots of stuff going to go on here for a second. So what she did was she decided that she was going to use a painted handprint of one of her granddaughters and her own painted handprint, and take that into our software and trace it, and then create a stacked handprints inside of a nice shape that was easily customizable for Mother's Day. Now, I'm not sure if this is exactly how she did it in the end, but I want to show you the process that she had mentioned in her video about bringing in a bitmap and tracing it, and how you could use one of these images to get a good start on making a realistic handprint that was actually around the same shape and size as the original print. But also what's nice about this is it adds a really, really nice sort of heartfelt feel to this project, knowing that it was actually a handprint made by your daughter and your mother, given to the granddaughter's mom. That would be Karen's daughter. I hope I got that right. Anyway, yeah, it worked out. The big circle of mom and daughter and granddaughter thing going on. So what I did was I created a quick video of how to trace a bitmap or one of these bitmaps in our software. So I assume that Karen would have started out by opening up a new session of our software, importing in the bitmap, using the bitmap trace tool. Now, one of the top tips here is double clicking on the bitmap in the 2D view to select your colors, and you'll see that it will populate that in the left-hand side of the palette. And then you can select the colors that I may have missed. You can fiddle around with the extra little buttons that we have there to kind of get a better result. If you like it, click preview, apply, and you've got now a vector outline. You can delete the bitmap because you don't need that anymore. Ungroup those vectors that you're left with, and then you can hold down your shift key and unselect the vectors that you want to keep, and then press delete. Now, I know that that was a whirlwind bunch of information for nobody who's ever done that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over it one more time, just so that you get the idea of how this works, or how you can take one of these hands and get a reasonable looking impression of it. Now, I would suspect that if I did do this process, then I would edit these, the hand, to make it a little more, less nodes and so on. There's a way you can do that, or replace some of the shapes with new shapes. It would be up to you how far you wanted to go with that. But let's just do this one more time. Here we go. So import in the bitmap. Select the bitmap trace tool. Go ahead in the 2D view, click on the colors that you want it to trace, and you'll see it adding them to the palette on the left-hand side. You can grab the extra colors that you've missed just by selecting them from the palette. If you're happy with it, you can go ahead and fiddle around with some of those other options there. But if not, you can just press preview. If you like it, click apply. You won't need that bitmap anymore, so you can delete it. Then you can go ahead and ungroup the vectors that were left, and hold down your shift key and unselect the ones that you want to keep, and then delete the rest. And then you can go in and edit those bitmaps, or sorry, edit the nodes to make your shape better, or even replace some of those different shapes with new shapes if you wanted to. But this gives you a really nice sort of realistic handprint. Obviously your tool is not going to get into all those nooks and crannies, but certainly it gives you a really great place to start. And like I said, this is an actual handprint of your mom or your daughter or your grandkid or whatever it happens to be, and it really is quite a nice little heartfelt touch. Now, how do we take that and get it into something like this? And this is where the stack text thing comes in. And so what I'm going to do is I am going to go over it, how it works with these the two handprints, which in some cases might be a little easier to understand than trying to do it with the fonts and everything. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and we'll walk through that. And one thing about this too is because it's using the pocket toolpath, which is a really efficient toolpath, especially if you use it with the clearance tool, this project takes very little time to cut, and so it's a nice, it's nice and quick, and you can do it in I think it took maybe 25-30 minutes to actually cut this in the end, which is perfect. It's the nice sweet spot for a nice project. So let's go ahead now and have a look at Karen's file that she sent to me to use to cut this with. Okay, so I'm just going to grab a quick drink of water, just while you read that disclaimer. I'm going to have a little drink of water. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, cool. So, as always, when you open up any of the files that we provide with our free projects or any projects that you get from Vectric, there is this little note here. So make sure you read and understand it. Make sure that you really go through all the files that we give you and adjust them so they're safe and appropriate for your machine, the material that you're using, and the bits that you have on hand. Okay, safety first all the way, okay? So let's just go ahead now, and I'm going to click OK on that. Let's just walk through this file really quick. So first of all, let's take a look at the actual job setup that Karen has here. So this is a single-sided job. Makes sense. It's 9 by 9 by 3/4 inch thick, so it's pretty standard material you can get almost anywheres, which is great. She decided to zero off her material surface, a datum set to the center. Of course, you can adjust that to whatever you need it to be. Because there's no 3D content in this at all, she's chosen to leave it at the standard finish, or sorry, standard modeling resolution, not finish. That way it'll run you're not slowed down by anything, but really that's just what you need to do because there's no 3D content in there. And then she chose to use a solid color. So we're just going to click cancel. Now, this is the sign of a really good file. If you look at the layers and they're all named appropriately and you actually understand what they all mean, it's great. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and click through these one at a time. So I'm going to right click on the top one and I'm going to choose show only this. So This is the outside heart, the vector for that. It's on its own layer. Then we have the inside heart. It's on its own layer as well. Then we have mom's hand, okay? And then we have the child's hand. Now here's where the magic happens with this layered text thing. What we're gonna do is we're gonna pocket down all of the material between the child's hand and this circle. I think we're back. Are we back? Please say we are. Ah! Okay, sorry about that. I don't know what happened there. That was the weirdest thing ever. It's nothing to do with, I don't know, I think it was between, doesn't matter what happened. I'm back. So there we go. Perfect. Okay. Excellent. So, sorry about that. Ah, the internet, I'm telling you. Okay, let me just recompose myself. Okay, here we go. So the idea of, and thanks to everybody for sticking around for that, okay? I really appreciate that. You could have bailed on me, so I appreciate you all hanging on. Let's talk a little bit, where was I now? Okay, so the idea is that we're going to use those vectors, and we're going to cut down the first layer, and then we're going to go down the rest of the way, and we're going to keep that raised hand, a little hand above that, and that's the way it's all going to kind of work out, okay? So let's now go ahead and have a look at the tooling for this. So let's just turn everything back on again. Oh, and here's the text here as well on the other layers, excuse me. They're totally customizable, so you can take this file and you can make it for whatever you want, which is fantastic. Let's just slide, oh shoot, sorry. Let's just slide me over here for a sec so I can get out of the way so we can have a look at the actual tool paths for this. Okay, so the first thing I want to point out is down here at the bottom, there's a upper pocket and upper pocket clear and upper pocket. And then there is also lower pocket clear and lower pocket. Okay, so these are the important two steps, okay? So let's, first of all, I'm gonna hide some of these layers. I'm gonna hide the outside heart. We're gonna hide all this text, just so it makes it a little bit easier for you guys to see what's going on. Both hands, mom's hand. Okay, so this first toolpath is a pocket toolpath, okay? Let's just go ahead and, there we go, is a pocket toolpath. And what we're doing is we're giving a start depth of 0, and we're going to give it a cut depth of 1/8 of an inch. Okay, so it's going to be 1/8 of an inch. And we're going to actually pocket between these two vectors here, so the small hand and the big hand. But we're going to use two tools. So we're going to use a 1/4 inch to go in and get the majority of the material out. And then we're going to go back in with an 1/8 inch end mill, and we're going to get the parts that the 1/4 inch couldn't get. And that way you'll actually get the detail that you want. And now when we go ahead and we calculate this, we get those two tool paths right here. See, they're both turned on, so we got both of those tool paths. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and preview the selected tool path. So this is the 1/4 inch end mill. It's going to go in, it's going to get that material out of there. The part that it can't get to, we can go ahead now and select the upper pocket, and we can go ahead and preview that selected toolpath. And you'll see we get in now in between the fingers, and all that's nicely cleaned up, which is great. So the next toolpath now is we're going to hide the child's hand, and we're going to show both hands. And we go to the lower pocket. Now here's the trick here. We're starting at the 1/8 inch deep, and then we're going to go down another 1/8 of an inch. So that's going to give us a total of a 1/4 inch deep pocket, but only between these vectors. So we're not going to touch this hand that's proud. We're only going to get the rest of the information. Again, we're going to use those same two tools, the 1/4 inch end mill and the 1/8 inch end mill. And we can go ahead and calculate that. And we can go ahead and preview that selected toolpath. So this is the 1/4 inch one. We're going to go in and clean up around it. And you see, obviously, mom's fingers aren't quite cleaned up. So we can go ahead now and do this lower pocket, and we can preview that visible toolpath. And there we have the actual stacked text effect, but using the hands instead, which is really quite nice in the end. It worked out really, really well. And then of course we can go in now and we can add in all of our V carvings. Let's show that, all these layers that we need. And we can go ahead and preview this text. So you can preview this, which is, Karen did a nice thing here. She decided to use the flat depth option instead of giving all of the sharp points at the bottom of all these. The flat depth is a nice option to keep the bottoms kind of flat, which is good. And she did not project this onto a 3D model, because there is no 3D model, so there's no point in doing that. We can just go ahead and calculate that, It says it needs to go into Vector Validator, but we're not going to worry about that. We're just going to continue anyway, and then we can preview that visible toolpath up here. And there we have it. And you'll see that it also did the little hand and the heart, which is really nice little touch. And then we can go down here to the next V carving. That's just the word mom in the center. Now, why she had to do this in 2 toolpaths was because the base of this is actually at the 1/2 inch deep, or sorry, the 1/4 inch deep. So the 1.25 plus 1.25. And she just decided again to use a flat depth of the 0.1 of an inch. And there we go now, and we can calculate that. Again, no projection onto a 3D component because there isn't anything there. Just in our preview there is. Let's preview the selected toolpath, and we'll see there's the lovely mom text in there. And then we're going to see the profile cut. Now I want to point out one thing with this profile cut as we go through it. I'll make, not one thing, I'm going to point out several things, but I'm going to point out one major thing that I think is kind of interesting. It'd be nice to know why Karen decided to use this option, and maybe we can ask her. So she's going to cut all the way through the material, so the 0.75 plus a little bit. I'm going to cut right through that into our spoil board using that 1/4 inch end mill, which is great. We're going to go outside that line. We're going to add in some tabs. Now when I cut this myself, I thickened up those tabs. So you're going to want to make sure that you check that and make sure it's safe for your machine. But here we go. She ramped down this actual profile cut. I've never done that before, and it worked really well. I'm not sure the pros and cons of that, but it worked well. I don't use any less or any more load on my tool. I'm really not sure, but it did work out really well in the end. So she did actually use that. So if we calculate that, it tells us we're going to cut through it. If we maximize this here, you'll see that if I preview that, just slow, it actually ramps in and goes down to the back. And there we have it. So that's a pretty slick little project. And like I said, it cuts really fast. And I know that because I cut it, and I'll show you that footage in a second. But it is an easily customizable project. You could use the hands that are there. You could do it with your own hands or your own grandkids' hands. You can even use this as a Father's Day gift or a grandperson's or grandparents' gift. It's really quite customizable and can be used for all sorts of things. Now, I went and actually cut this on our CNC in the lab. So let's just go ahead and have a look at that. So here I am using my standard pine board that you know how much I love that. Anyway, I screwed that down to our wasteboard and put in our 1/4 inch end mill. So here we go for our first clearance pass of the child's hand. So we're going to go in and we're going to clear that right out. And like I said, these tool paths run pretty fast. So this is a project, even at its size, you could make, I believe it was like in 35 minutes we ended up doing this. So here we go. Here's the results of the 1/4 inch end mill. And I did do a little bit of, it was a little fuzzy, but that's okay because this 1/8 inch end mill went in and took care of all that stuff. Here it goes, getting into all those little places that the 1/4 inch couldn't get. And look at that, it turned out really well. So that's our first layer right there. I have to thank Neve for the wonderful photography she took here and the footage she did of this project. It looks really good. So here we go, we're gonna go in and we're gonna do the next pass. This is the clearance pass of the next level. So we started at 0.125 inches deep and we're going down another 0.25 inches, but we're cutting between that welded vector of the 2 hands and the inside border of the heart. And here we've got me swapping out, putting in the 1/8 inch so I can go in and get that fine detail. And there we go. And for a guy who doesn't like pine, this actually cut really quite nice, so I was pretty impressed in the end with it. Yeah, so there we have it. It looks really good, I think, in the end. And then I can go ahead and swap in that V-bit and go ahead and do the V carving with those flat bottoms. there we have it. We're going to put back in that 1/4 inch end mill, and we're going to run our profile cut so we can cut this out. I removed it off of our spoil board, and there we have it. Cut that out with a little hand saw, and then you can see that actually cut really quite nicely. Went over the sander, our friendly little sander, and gave it a little bit of a sand around the edges. I was quite happy with how well it cut, so it did clean up quite nicely. Painted in those letters with the stain, the wood stain, and then at the end of it I gave it a nice little spray clear coat, and it turned out really nice. So there you have it. That's the end of it, and what a great, effective, very heartfelt project to make for Mother's Day. And she and we, Karen and us, have decided that we're going to give this away, as always, for free to you. So right now, if you wanted to pop over to your V&Co account, you can go ahead and log in and download this project for free. With the project, you're going to get the 2 images that you saw of Karen's hand and her granddaughter's hand, and also the Mother's Day Project 2021.crv file, and then a PDF like we always do. We always give you, that gives you a little bit of a breakdown of the materials that I used to cut this with and the process that it was done with. So please go ahead and download that. I'll wait wait till the end of this, but when you get a second later on. Now, if you do cut this and you decide to make it your own, we would love to see it. So if you post it socially, please go ahead and post that socially and make sure you tag us in it so we can see it. And if you put it in Karen's Facebook group, that would be fantastic. It'd be great. Or if you put it in our Vectric user forum, that would be equally as nice. So I really want to again thank Karen Hadden for this, for her time that she spent in the interview, which was again lovely as always, and for taking the time to create this wonderful little project for us. Now, on top of that, I want to take a second out and to thank the community that she has sort of cultivated from nothing to this amazing thing that it is right now, for sharing their tips and tricks and helping new users that are starting their CNC journey. There should be more of that out there, and people need to feel welcome, and I think that this group does that exact thing. So to Karen and all of her moderators and that full community, thank you for doing what you're doing. I really appreciate it a lot. We really appreciate it a lot. So thanks again. So I hope that you enjoyed that. Now, next month, we are going to do another one of these with Peter Parfait. Now, if you've ever seen Peter's YouTube channel, The New Brit Workshop, he is quite a character. He does all kinds of different videos, mainly stuff that he makes in his wood shop, it'd be woodworking and so on, but he also has a CNC machine that he actually builds things to help him build other stuff with. So he's going to share some of his practical ideas for your CNC. Now, the last time I was on his site, he was showing you, or on his YouTube site, he was showing you how to wash your car, which, yeah, it's interesting, and it might be great for you to check out. But I can't wait to get with him next time around. And he's also posed an interesting challenge to me, and I hope that I can meet that challenge. So I'm really excited to share that with you all next time around. Well, again, from all of us here at Vectric, thank you very much for stopping by today. If we haven't got to your questions, please post it below in the comments below, and we'll get to it. And really sorry about that little technical glitch. Again, working from home, I guess that stuff is going to happen. That's the first one I've had in a while, so I guess I was due. But anyway, thank you again. I hope that you're all keeping safe, making fun stuff, and really, keeping healthy out there, okay? Thanks again, and until next time, we'll see you later. Thanks again. Bye-bye.